She addressed the class as boys and girls, and one student literally had a whole mental breakdown.
I'm a teacher in the district. 95% know that they are trans when they are 3, 4, and 5 years old.
I do not want someone identifying as a frog or a doll to be judging the next generation's mental health.
Fossil fuel pollution and climate change, protecting pregnant people and babies from the health effects of climate change.
I was pulled into the supervisor's office and lectured about how what I said was hate speech and anti-trans.
All white people are racist.
This training was try to be less white.
The last straw was when a non-binary drag queen came to an assembly to talk about how different sexualities, gender identities, neopronouns, and sexual kinks to kindergartners.
Recruiters are watching. HR is watching. Everywhere. And we hate you. We hate you so much.
Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So I asked you to share experiences at work if there was a certain political agenda being pushed, and so today I'm going to be reading those responses from those of you who can relate to the situation and are either leaving your job or thinking about changing your job. But before we begin, please make sure you are subscribed and have hit the notification bell just so that you don't miss any of my videos. I worked for a retail company in 2020 when I was 17. The people I worked with were the types of people you looked at and knew they were hardcore leftists. I live in Vermont. I was added to a work group chat, and during the 2020 presidential debate, it was going off. They noticed I was being silent and said it was suspicious. Someone went through who I was following on Instagram. They screenshotted that I was following Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, etc., and sent it to the group chat. I was immediately ripped into despite never saying a thing. Then my boss called me into her office. She said my ageist remarks were reported to her by a coworker. I asked what I said and she wouldn't tell me. I said I was probably misheard or something. I was called into the office again a week later for racist remarks. I never said anything that could even be misheard or interpreted as racist at all. I was working in the back room at the time, so I was barely ever talking in the first place. It was their word over mine, and nothing I said made my boss realize this is ridiculous. She had zero evidence I was saying these things, and she wouldn't even tell me what I was accused of saying. I got a call on my day off asking if I wanted to talk over the phone or in person about my employment moving forward. And I said right there on the phone that it won't be necessary because I quit. It seems your coworkers were trying to get you fired because of, who you were following on Instagram or trying to make things up. This is giving me flashbacks to 2020 when people were so suspicious of those who didn't, publicly come out and say who they're voting for. I was one of those people. I wasn't on the right yet, but I was already starting to question things. And I was approached by not one, but two people came up to me and they said, why aren't you posting about the election at all? Because everybody was posting about Biden and how evil Trump was. And then also two people told me the same thing. They said, why don't you have pronouns in your bio? It would really help. This was going on. A lot of people were sending messages saying, hey, you should show your support for trans and non-binary people by putting your pronouns in your bio. And again, silence is violence. So if you don't do that, you're actually hurting the non-binary they, thems. You have no idea how many people have told me in real life and online, they really support me, they love what I do, thank you so much. I wish I could follow you, but my coworkers, they follow my Instagram, for example, so I can't let them see that I'm following you. So they support people like me, content creators who lean right in private because they're scared of getting fired, because their colleagues may see who they're following on Instagram. So those same employers who say, we want diversity, we want all sorts of different opinions and people with different backgrounds to work for us, but if you have a different political belief, we'll fire you if we find that out. Or from their school. Also, my friends are very left-leaning, so they can't see that I follow you. I get it, but also it's really sad that people feel that they have to hide their support for certain people, which is so strange because I have never been approached by someone from the right saying, why do you follow CNN? Why do you follow this person? This person's on the left. How dare you? You have betrayed the right cult. No, no one has ever told me this in person or online. I've never heard this before. And for those of you who think you can't follow people with different opinions, that's not a good sign. You're probably in an echo chamber. That's not healthy. So yeah, it just goes to show how cultish the left really is when you can't follow people. Even, okay, let's pretend and say you wanted to lie to your friends or your coworkers and said, I don't agree with her. I just want to hear a different opinion. Even if you said that, they'd be like, that's violence. You are hurting people by following someone like that. The company sells geeky toys and merchandise, and I love that stuff. It started to get on my nerves when I felt like I couldn't really express my opinion freely if I didn't like a certain show or agreed with the newest diverse casting or changes to certain characters. Then we started selling pride flags and pronoun badges, of course, and using pride and rainbows to get customers in. This job involves running courses for young people with mental health problems and providing a chance for them to temporarily be in a space where they cannot worry about the problems that hang over them. It sounds lovely on paper, especially as the age range for these courses are 11 to 20 years old, and consider the state of Gen Z, it should be completely fine. I wish, but no. They interject so much far-left nonsense on the courses as well as the meetings and trainings we do outside of that. They consistently talk crap about any person with a following who isn't left. Funny enough, they actually mentioned you, Misha, at one point, and they got super offended over your video about lesbian Snow White's meltdown. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of flattered, because if I'm making people hate me for disagreeing with what the pronoun gal is saying, I know I'm doing something right.
I'm going to show you how to use flowers emoji pronouns.
If they think this way, then again, I would not mind. But it's a problem when 12 to 20-year-olds are being told nonsense and believe it. My super woke manager and fellow employees were talking crap about cis straight white men when I was sitting right next to them, and I gave them such a death stare. I think people just aren't even used to you saying anything against that, because there are now straight white men, but on the left, who say, yeah, like, I really don't know what I'm talking about. I'll just put my head down. I won't say anything because I can't really speak. I'm a man. I have no right. And I'm straight and I'm white. I really should just go die, because why am I even alive? Like, I should give my space. I should give this oxygen to someone who really needs it. Like a gay, black woman, right? That would be the opposite. So yeah, they don't think that they deserve an opinion or to speak if they're a straight white man. So I'm sure these people on the left were surprised that you would not agree with them. Straight black women who think that only gay black women should talk, and it just continues until it's like the most oppressed person, they can talk, until someone that's more oppressed comes along. It says, do you have any advice for me? I just got out of college and now work as a substitute teacher, yet I see a lot of the same stuff you mentioned. Yeah, it is crazy if you look at what's going on in public schools especially, and teachers, and the books that are being read to children.
I'm a teacher in the district. I also teach in LUSD. I have 2 students in the district. I work at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles with queer and trans youth in large groups. And so I deal with a lot of their trauma related to the heteronormative, Judeo-Christian, patriarchal, imperialist, capitalist system that oppresses them. 95% know that they are trans when they are 3, 4, and 5 years old.
Homeschooling has never looked this good. This person responds, if there is a possibility, document all the woke material in the school, or try and directly challenge higher ups at the school regarding the woke material, or to minimize political conversations between students and yourself as much as possible. You know, this is what we did like in middle school and the beginning of high school. Teachers would make it very clear, you know, I'm not even going to tell you my political beliefs. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. Don't ask me. We're here to learn algebra. We're here to learn history. We're not here to discuss the candidate I like. I think that's a good plan. Why should that be talked about in the classroom? What should I do about the situation for the dream job as a psychologist or school counselor? It's really sad and very troubling what's happening to psychologists and psychiatrists. I wanted to be a psychologist when I was younger, and throughout high school I thought I would become one because I find psychology so fascinating, and I still do. But it's really unfortunate what's going on, especially with, you know, this gender affirming care. But it's not just that. When you think about the purpose of a therapist, it's to provide professional mental health support. That doesn't automatically mean that they have to affirm you and validate you, right? If you come into the office and you say, I'm a tree, I feel like a tree, and it makes me really sad that people don't see me as a tree. Your job as a therapist is not to say, okay, here, I'm writing the consent. Here's my signature. You can go surgically attach tree branches to your body. No, that's not your job. Okay, that's insanity. And that's the direction we're heading to, because therapists are now losing their license if they don't automatically affirm someone's gender identity. Also, that doesn't mean they have to judge the patient when they open up to them, but it doesn't mean that validation, immediate validation, is always appropriate. It's important for the therapist to push back sometimes to see how the client reacts, to diagnose them with something if need be, and then develop a personalized treatment plan. But to get to that point, they have to challenge their client's perspectives. That's how you better understand the deeper issue, right? Otherwise, you're paying them for 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour, whatever, for them to affirm, nod their head, yeah. A lot of people use therapy to just get approval, basically, or permission to continue their destructive behavior, or try to avoid responsibility. And it's a lot of narcissism, right? They just sit down, they pay them, and they get affirmation, and they feel really good about themselves. but they don't want to change, and they're not going to get any better if that's how you're approaching therapy. And everyone in Gen Z wants to be either a psychologist, sociologist, and heck, even a criminologist, which considering the Gen Z spills is quite terrifying. True. I do not want someone identifying as a frog or a doll to be judging the next generation's mental health, or these therapists fighting to normalize pedophiles by calling them MAPs. And how, we should have compassion for them. They're virtuous pedophiles because they don't actually touch children. You're a pedophile. Let's not normalize that ever.
I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and sex therapist in Erie, Pennsylvania. And today I want to talk about minor attracted persons. Most folks are making incorrect assumptions about them without actually knowing much about them. And those assumptions create harm for an already marginalized population.
While I'm not in the job currently, I find it ironic I'm working myself through school to become a psychologist as a conservative, despite that being one of the most woke careers I've ever seen. If it wasn't for the fact it actually was one of my greatest passions and I couldn't imagine myself in any other career besides it, I probably wouldn't have decided to go to university for it. I was a medical receptionist, and even though I didn't change my job because of the political climate, I did start to see a trend tipping towards the woke by adding pronouns and even allowing the patients to change their gender. It wouldn't even show in the quick view menu that they weren't that sex, but rather in their actual chart.
Please confirm your gender and pronouns.
Male, he, him, his. Thanks for asking.
We're the ones with the messed up software.
The doctors are so busy that I won't be surprised if one day someone is given wrong medications or instructions because of it. I had to ask elderly people all the time if they identified with the opposite gender because a lot of them accidentally would choose the wrong one. They would just laugh and say that it was a mistake, but no one else that I worked with would do it. I just don't understand why it's allowed in a medical field at all. We need true and accurate data at a glance. Okay, so speaking of medicine, I'm watching The Good Doctor right now, and I know it's just a show, but listen to me. So I initially wanted to watch it because of a clip I saw where Sean Murphy, who, if you don't know, he is a surgical resident with autism in the show.
I am a surgeon!
It makes it difficult for him to lie, so he's very honest about things.
Quinn has XY chromosomes like Jared and me, not XX like you. Science says he's male, but biologically...
Other than biologically, how do you know you're supposed to be a boy?
Your question doesn't make sense. I'm not supposed to be anything. I am a boy. Biologically, that's it.
All the other doctors are like, no, you just don't get it, Sean. You just don't understand because of your autism.
He doesn't have appendicitis. He has testicular cancer.
She.
So I went to watch that show thinking, oh, this is cool. This doctor's being honest, right? No. I was so disappointed. The show was so woke. And I just want to show you the last episode that I watched and this brilliant quote.
I've never been a pregnant man before.
Yeah, so I wanted to watch it because it's a medical drama, but it's no House MD.
He had a bilateral subcutaneous mastectomy and takes hormone replacement therapy, but now he is choosing the most female act.
It's not female if Rio's doing it.
Yes.
But in real life, this is happening as well. Obviously, in the medical field, they completely forgot about do no harm by giving children puberty blockers, babies not being assigned a gender, but then they also know that they're transgender in the womb. So yeah, all that nonsense that we're hearing from medical professionals. Like, you want to hear something actually terrifying? Okay, think of doctors from our generation, Gen Z, but then also the woke ones. So think of a woke Gen Z doctor. There'll probably be some protocol in the future where they'll have to get your pronouns to avoid misgendering, otherwise they'll get the death penalty. So they'll be screaming at you, what are your pronouns? And you'll be screaming back in agony, asking for help for your medical emergency. You'll probably die by that time, and they won't get your pronouns because they're prioritizing this crap above everything else. Above actually helping their patient, we have to be diverse, we have to respect your pronouns, fire all the white ones, we should get all women, we should do this, we should do that, not focusing on whether or not this is an actual qualified doctor, if they're smart, if they can do the job, but are they black? Are they women? Are they trans? Because if they're not, that's a problem, because then we don't look diverse.
You see students kneeling and holding a sign that reads "White Coats for Black Lives," which the report says linked to a page that offered reading material such as anti-racist resources for white people and guidelines for being a strong white ally.
When really, we shouldn't be focusing on the skin color or the gender. We should be focusing on whether or not they're good at what they do. Right? They could be black, they could be trans, they could be gay, straight, whatever, white, but they should be good at their job. That should be the priority. Otherwise, we're all screwed. And when it comes to medicine, that's the scariest part about this, in my opinion.
Statistically, many ethnic minorities are actually overrepresented in medicine because, of course, medicine should all be about ability to get into medical school, your CV, your academic achievements. That's it.
I found this doctor on YouTube, and you need to hear him reading the titles. This is from the New England Journal of Medicine.
Air pollution, mortality, race and social class. The climate gap and the color line, racial affinity group caucusing in medical education, diversifying the physician workforce, fossil fuel pollution and climate change, mandatory reporting of emissions to achieve net zero healthcare, fossil fuel pollution and climate change, protecting pregnant people and babies from the health effects of climate change. Oh yes, I forgot. Nowadays in healthcare, the politically correct thing to do, it's pregnant people, right? It's not pregnant women anymore, pregnant people. But we have to talk about it in the context of climate change.
So in 2015, I graduated MLT school and got a job as a lab tech at a local hospital. Pre-COVID, so the only thing they enforced was getting flu vaccine or wear a mask, which no one did. I'm glad I quit before the pandemic. I would have been fired because I wouldn't take the job. They claim to care about you, but not your medical privacy or your individual autonomy, deciding what you do to your own body. No, they don't care when it comes to mandating the vaccine. The company who bought us is very woke, so I'm worried about the future of my job. This company literally has Zoom meetings about diversity. They even hired somebody whose entire job is to make things more diverse. It doesn't help that my coworkers are also very woke. They openly talk about wishing right-wingers and conservatives would just die already. I just have to nod my head and agree, as I don't want to be alienated from my coworkers at work.
This is an ad for a job from the Suburban Rail Link Authority looking for an inclusion and diversity manager. You could earn up to $238,000 to be the DEI manager. Is that something that looks like money well spent?
I should have known it was going to be insanely left-leaning when they asked me what my pronouns are before they began the interview. The job ended up being a leftist hell. The employees would constantly bash religion, specifically the Catholic Church. I am a practicing Catholic, but literally cry and get mad when they were called the wrong pronouns. Now that's a great sign of good mental health. Yeah. I got pronoun police constantly because a lot of these employees went by they, them pronouns, and I often called the individual she or her because they had very feminine names like Sophia and Kristen and were still obviously women. One time I was sitting on break with a few of these employees and the other woman, and we'll call her Debbie, who was on testosterone, was trying to talk to another woman, we'll call her Emma, into going on testosterone simply because Emma was complaining about getting her period over the weekend and supposedly going on tea would stop that from happening. What a great idea. And imagine then Debbie goes to the woke doctor and the woke doctor says, yes, that's how we should use testosterone. Debbie was convincing Emma that there were no negative side effects to tea and that she could quit anytime. I was pulled into the supervisor's office and lectured about how what I said was hate speech and anti-trans. I ended up quitting that job a week later and now work at a normal place. Thank God. Yes, thank God. Not my personal story, but my great aunt's. She taught elementary and middle school for 36 years, 1983 to 2019, and she said that there were 3 incidents that made her quit. The first one happened when she addressed the class as boys and girls, and one student literally had a whole mental breakdown, crying, screaming, tearing the whole classroom apart because she didn't say other, meaning non-binary people, because she should have said folks. How was she allowed to teach if she's not using folks with an X? That is the politically correct term. Bigot. Because the student would not come down, she had to evacuate the rest of the students out of the classroom and call the principal, who ended up telling her she needs to honor and include her students' identity and to not make the same mistake again. The second incident was during Black History Month. The librarian was reading the class a story about MLK and civil rights, but somehow flipped the conversation to how horrible all white people are and actually made the white students apologize to the black students for everything their ancestors did. Oh, great. The last straw was when a non-binary drag queen came to an assembly to talk about how different sexualities, gender identities, neopronouns, and sexual kinks to kindergartners. My great aunt loved teaching, but she had to quit because she could not deal with this insane radical political agenda being pushed on such young, innocent, and impressionable minds. By the way, this happened in Canada, where the problem is just as bad as in the US and UK, if not worse. I would say, from applauding Nazis to teaching kindergartners about sexual kinks. I suppose you could say I switched careers if you count pursuing marriage and family over a career. I was at a liberal arts college taking on debt for a degree, working towards a career I knew I would abandon as soon as I had children. During my first week, the race and gender agenda was immediately pushed. I remember completing assignments for my education courses and being afraid of the backlash I would receive for some of the answers. teachers. Something inside of me knew it wasn't the right path for me. But I also have gained experience in teaching, built a student base, and became a teacher independently. While I don't plan on teaching forever, had I not dropped out to pursue my career change, my life would look nothing like it does right now. I would have never met my fiance and be on my way towards the simple life I have always dreamed of as a wife and a mother. So good for you. I'm glad that you chose what's best for you. And try to ignore what the online modern day feminist says about how if you're not a girl boss, you're a failure. I was hired for a term contract position at a large life insurance company here. During that time, they rolled out DEI training. The goal by the end of 2023 is to have 70% of all employees take it, but by August, it was 11%, so it was heavily encouraged to take it. My department manager automatically signed everyone up. They fully embraced wokeness, created a non-gender washroom. The DEI training included gender-affirming procedures and care, so diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And it's a workplace training program to promote diversity.
White people are racist. I believe that white people are born into not being human.
Thesis of this training was try to be less white. They're talking about arrogance and things like that. That is by no means a white thing. Where you hear things about microaggressions. If you ask somebody what they do for a living, somehow that's racist, right? If you learn that, then why would you take a chance?
I better not talk to Eric because I might say something wrong.
Precisely. So now inclusion means I'm going to silence myself and not talk to the black people.
I took this online a few years ago, and all it really does is try to convince you that you have an unconscious bias, right? That you are racist, even if you don't think you're racist, you don't know it. Also, it categorizes people. So if you are black, you're going to have this experience, obviously, because you're black. Or if you're a woman, you're going to go through this, and this is your viewpoint automatically because of your gender. It's really good at reinforcing stereotypes. You also have to learn about microaggressions. And the funny thing is, it's not even effective. Like, it doesn't lead to any real changes in the workplace when it comes to diversity or equity.
In fact, the Harvard Business Review reports 5 years after diversity training, the share of black women managers actually decreased.
So forcing employees to take this is more of a performative gesture, if anything, kind of like a look at us, our company is so diverse, our organization is so politically correct.
Stanford Law School, a judge who'd been invited to speak, was stopped by angry students and Stanford's Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Absolute disenfranchisement of their rights and guzzling.
The diversity dean lectured this federal judge for 6 minutes.
Is it worth the pain that this causes and the division that it causes? Do you have something so incredible important to say about Twitter and guns and COVID that is worth this impact on the division of these people?
Okay, so I found this video, which I absolutely love. It's from something called Red Balloon Work, and they're making fun of woke workplaces, so you have to see this.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company. I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills.
I want to be judged by my political beliefs. When I grow up, I want to be offended by my coworkers and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long.
Because it doesn't make sense. At the same time, you're encouraging diversity, but then also we can't have you thinking something else. You have to have this political belief. You can't question anything. We're going to monitor who you follow and their political beliefs. Insane.
I'm a recruiter. If you're looking for a job, or maybe trying to keep a job, think about what you're putting on social media. Again, freedom fighters. I know you're not really big with stats and, facts aren't your thing. And recruiters, like the majority of Canada, don't agree with you. Recruiters are watching. HR is watching everywhere. And we hate you. We hate you so much. Doesn't matter if there's a fucking man at the top of your HR department. It's run by women. And it's run by angry women just like me.
If you are already in a woke workplace, it can be very tough because, you may need to provide for yourself, for your family, you need to feed them. You can't always speak up. And it's tough, again, because you're stuck in that environment, let's say a 9 to 5, hearing this ideology. You're either going to get sucked in or feel miserable because you can't speak up because they censor speech. So if you guys have any advice for finding non-woke jobs or what someone can do if they're already in a workplace, please make sure you comment that below. Also remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell just so you don't miss any of my videos. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.